100 battles, not one defeat. And when they finally took him off the battlefield, it destroyed him. Let me ask you something. What if the most dangerous enemy you ever faced became your greatest defender? That is not a hypothetical. That actually happened. His name was Khalid ibn Walid. Born in Mecca around 585 CE into one of the most powerful families in all of Arabia. From the time he could walk, he was trained for one thing: war, swords, horses, strategy. By the time he was a young man, warriors across the entire Arabian Peninsula spoke his name with a mixture of respect and fear. Now, here is the part that most people don't know. Before Khalid became the greatest hero in Islamic history, he was its most feared enemy. At the Battle of Uhud in 625 CE, it was Khalid who broke the Muslim lines, and the Muslim archers abandoned their positions, and Khalid saw it instantly. Like a lion watching prey make a fatal mistake, he seized the moment. He led his cavalry around the mountain and hit the Muslim army from behind. The result was devastating. Muslim soldiers fell. The Prophet Muhammad himself was wounded. It was one of the darkest moments in early Islamic history, and the man responsible was Khalid ibn Walid, the enemy, the storm. The blade pointed directly at the heart of everything Islam stood for. Nobody, not a single soul, could have predicted what was about to happen next. Something was eating Khalid alive from the inside. He had won at Uhud. He had driven the Muslims back. By every measure of his world, he should have felt victorious. But he couldn't stop thinking. He watched the Muslims, people who had been tortured, driven from their homes, stripped of everything, and they did not break. They did not run. They held on to their faith like a man holds onto a rope over a cliff. What kind of belief does that to a person? The question haunted Khalid for 2 years, and then, in 627 CE, he made a decision that shocked everyone who knew him. He left Mecca quietly, alone, and he walked to Medina. The man who had wounded the Prophet, the man who had led cavalry charges against Muslim armies, standing at the gates of the city, asking to come in. When Khalid entered and stood before the Prophet Muhammad, the Prophet looked at him and said something that Khalid would never forget for the rest of his life. He said, "I always knew that a mind like yours could not stay in the dark forever." That was it. No anger, no accusation, no list of crimes, just welcome home. Khalid bin Walid embraced Islam that day, and when he did, it was not half-hearted, it was not political, it was total, complete. The same intensity he had brought to fighting against Islam, he now brought to fighting for it. The most dangerous enemy had just switched sides, and the world was about to feel it. The Prophet Muhammad gave Khalid a title, 3 words. In Arabic, Saifullah, the sword of Allah. No warrior in all of Islamic history, before or since, has ever been given that title. Just Khalid, and he earned every single syllable of it. Here is a moment that will show you exactly who this man was. 629 CE, the Battle of Mu'tah. The Muslim army, 3,000 men, marching toward a Byzantine force of over 100,000 soldiers. 100,000. 3 Muslim commanders took the banner one after another, and one after another, they fell in battle. The army was on the edge of collapse. Then Khalid took the banner. What he did next, military historians still struggle to explain. In the middle of a catastrophic battle, outnumbered 30-1, Khalid reorganized the entire army. He repositioned soldiers to create the illusion of fresh reinforcements arriving. He launched aggressive attacks when every logical instinct screamed retreat. The Byzantine commanders, confused, uncertain, pulled back. 3,000 men held off 100,000 and withdrew with honor. When news reached the Prophet in Medina, he wept for the commanders who had fallen. But of Khalid, he said only this: he took the banner, and Allah granted victory through him. That was Khalid. That was what he was made of. After the Prophet's death in 632 CE, everything threatened to fall apart. Tribes across Arabia were abandoning Islam. False prophets were rising. The entire community that the Prophet had built was teetering on the edge of destruction. Khalid was sent to hold the line. And he did, campaign after campaign, battle after battle, moving across the desert with a speed that terrified his enemies, because by the time they heard he was coming, he was already there. Then came the wars that would define history itself. At the Battle of Waleed, Khalid executed a military maneuver so brilliant that it is still studied in military academies today. He completely surrounded a Persian army that thought it had him outnumbered. At Yarmouk, perhaps the greatest battle of his life, Khalid commanded Muslim forces against a Byzantine army 3 to 4 times their size. The battle lasted 6 days. When it ended, Byzantine power in Syria was finished, forever. 100 battles, not one defeat. Think about that for a moment, not one. He fought against 2 of the greatest empires in the ancient world, the Persian Empire and the Byzantine Empire, and he beat them both. The sword of Allah had never been broken. And then came the moment that broke his heart. The Caliph Umar ibn al-Khattab, one of the wisest leaders in Islamic history, made a difficult decision. He was concerned. People across the Muslim world were beginning to credit victories to Khalid rather than to Allah. The fame was becoming a problem. So he removed Khalid from command. No disgrace, no accusation of wrongdoing, just, you are no longer the commander. And here's where you see exactly what Khalid bin Walid was truly made of. He didn't argue, he didn't rage, he didn't walk away. He picked up his sword, and he fought as a regular soldier, under the command of men he had once commanded, younger men, men who had learned warfare by watching him. He stood in the ranks, and he fought. Because for Khalid, it was never about the rank. It was never about the title, it was always about the cause. Khalid died in 642 CE, not on a battlefield, which was the only death he had ever wanted. He died in his bed. His last words were about his scars. He looked down at his body, covered from head to toe in the marks of 100 battles, and he wept. Not because he was sad, but because he had hoped, every single time he rode into battle, that this would be the day he died as a martyr. That day never came. There was not a handspan of skin on his entire body that didn't carry a scar. And yet, the one thing he wanted most, to die fighting for what he believed in, was the one thing he never got. The sword of Allah was laid to rest, and the world has never seen anyone like him since.